right, well, we're here today with Derek Flottum with Irgens, and we are going to talk about stuff. Yeah.
We're going to talk about translatable skills.
Translatable skills.
When hiring.
When hiring.
Can you use that in a sentence?
Yes.
Okay.
Which part?
Translatable?
Translatable?
Mm-hmm. You can't, can you? Should go well.
I can't.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You had this theory a long time ago. You said, no, that's bad. You said, I prefer not to hire people from our industry, from the construction industry. You wanted to do things different. And if you build a building the same way in every town, per code, on time, on budget, what can we do to differentiate ourselves? So you told me, if it's still true, that you wanted to find people that didn't come with the same perspectives, the same ideas, same little pool of people that just shuffle around the AEC world, that you wanted to find talent that we could say, hey, you're good at X. Come over here because you're good at X. I'll teach you the sideline stuff that you're going to need to know, but let's leverage your skill set for what it is.
Yeah, I think it's a realization that the commercial real estate industry, whether it's construction, engineering, development, whatever, is really more about relationships. Mm-hmm. And so you're looking for the right personality, and you can teach the majority of the skills. Now, it's not a complete absence of applicable skills, but it doesn't have to be this cookie cutter collegiate degree, this cookie cutter internship, this cookie cutter upbringing or whatever. I think we've found that there are certain things in somebody's past that are more beneficial, and it's primarily geared towards, in construction, a hard work ethic, which, is kind of easy to find when you look through somebody's resume or their schooling or just listen to their story. But most of the stuff that we have tried to hire, been very intentional about, is finding the right people in order to create the right teams to serve our clients' needs. And I think that, the nuts and bolts of putting a construction project together is not rocket science. And inevitably, it's following a set of rules. Mm-hmm. And so you can teach somebody to follow the rules. The things that you can't teach are all of the intangibles, making the experience better, truly caring about somebody's, somebody's project, somebody's investment, somebody's, future, and really working towards the collaborative process. And so, yeah, we've had more success hiring outside of the cookie cutter construction industry with certain positions. There are absolute positions that just require, the upbringing. The superintendents, for example, is a very, a very strong background in building and construction and understanding how things get put together. And that, I think, is hard to replace. But in the more managerial positions, pre-construction, even project management, it's really more about organization, communication,
customer service.
And customer service, yeah. I mean, we provide a service at the end of the day, right? And so that's really what it is. And a lot of times, no matter where you go, people talk about Chick-fil-A or In-N-Out, right? Because it's like, I'd rather go there because the service is so much better, right? Well, they pay the kids a little bit more, whatever. But it's more about the experience than it is anything else. There are a lot of really great contractors in this town, and I think there's a lot of people that can get a lot of things done the right way for the right price on time. It's really more about the experience at the end of the day, and who do I want to work with for the next 8, 10, 24 months, and who do I really want to get up and go to battle with every single day, because there's just challenges in construction, there's successes, there's failures, whatever, but it's really more about how do you find the right partner. And I think that's why we've gone a little bit outside the industry. Also, it's created a diverse expertise within our group. So like your background in healthcare, Andrew, one of our senior PMs, has a background in the Army Corps of Engineers, which, protocol, rigidity, all of the things that we deal with inside hospital systems and things of that nature, he's really thrived. Kevin comes from the subcontracting world, which is great because it helps us understand that, area a little bit more. So we've got a pretty diverse background. Matt, cars. I don't know why that matters, but
it matters.
Yeah.
So Derek, you did this. You're a banker at some level, whatever position we're going to call it.
Yeah.
What made you say, hey, I do this all day, every day. This is kind of interesting. Can I do it? Am I prepared? What was that journey?
You're saying the transition from banking? Well, I kind of got into banking out of school because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grow up. I'm not entirely sure that I know what I want to do when I grow up, but No, I'd gotten into the banking, on the investment banking side to kind of figure, let's see how businesses are run and really pick where I want to build a career afterwards. And while I enjoyed it, that was never my end goal. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I was in Phoenix, and I was the president of a bank, but I didn't see myself, being there the rest of my life. So I kind of looked around town and said, where are the smartest people in town? What are they doing? And they were doing commercial real estate. And then I said, well, where are the dumbest people in town? And they were also doing commercial real estate. So I thought, I know I'm not the smartest, and I don't think I'm the dumbest. Mm-hmm. So if I can middle this thing, it'd be a real opportunity. But so, of course, everyone looked at me and they're like, well, your background's banking. That's what you understand. And I said, no, it's really more business. It's relationships, as you said. That's the most important thing. It's the ability to sell yourself, to sell a product, to sell a company. It's the ability, willingness to learn. The willingness to ask questions. I mean, I find not coming out of the construction background, some of the best value I provide is I ask the really dumb questions that everyone's thinking but is afraid to ask, and I just don't care. And so I'll ask questions that'll people say, yeah, actually, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. And, kind of coming at it, to your point, from an outsider's point of view. Mm-hmm. So I think business is relationships, communication, getting people to go in the direction you want them to go, of their own will, but helping them get there. And so I really felt those were all translatable, into this market. And so far, knock on wood, it's been successful.
So what did they think you wouldn't know? When they said, you're a banker, we do real estate, what were their areas that they thought he's going to come to us with, obviously, finance background, but what will he not have?
I think, when people think of bankers, they think of regulations, they think of rules, they think of rigidity, they think of, process. Mm-hmm. It's a highly regulated, highly, corporate environment. And, real estate, in my opinion, is a lot more thinking on your feet. It's figuring out how to put something together. It's, something definitely went wrong. How do we fix it? Whether that be a client relationship, a project, anything. So I think when people thought of bankers, they thought of, following rules, which has never really been my strong suit. A, B, C. It's one of the mentality I just didn't have. And I did find when I was in banking, and I knew I wanted to make the transition, I ultimately quit a very good job with no plan in place because every time I talked to someone, they'd say, yeah, but you're a banker. And I couldn't get past it. So I kind of said, no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm much better. I'm unemployed. And so there's a little desperation in the whole thing. But no, I found that I really had to break from that because I found when people thought of bankers, they thought button down, follow the rules.
Boring box checking.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you've overcome that stereotype?
Yeah, I do sometimes. Some days I don't. It does, though, put into the forefront of your mind a lot of times risk. I mean, you're trained to manage risk. Mm-hmm. And that does make me, I believe, sometimes more conservative than people who came straight out of entrepreneurial, forget it, I'm going to jump in and figure this thing out. And that's something I work on. I have to consciously think about.
You have to push yourself for the risk?
I have to push myself for the risk because in what I did the first 14 years of my career was analyze risk. Mm-hmm. That was analyze and mitigate risk and make sure you're getting paid for it. And on this side, it's more flipping that on its head and analyzing opportunity and figuring out.
Better be the right risk.
Yeah, I mean, and the payout's much greater. And it needs to be for the risk you have to take. I mean, started your own company. You're in. There's no safety net. You figure it out, and there's great upside and significant downside potentially, and you got to be willing to take that on and think. Not look at it from that perspective, from the risk perspective, more as the opportunity perspective.
Yeah, so, you can't play scared. I mean, that's just what it is. You just can't play scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
fake it till you make it with the confidence and figure it out as you go.
Yeah. I mean, every person I know in this industry who started their own thing is, I started out at the kitchen table, bit a job. I had no idea what I was doing, got it, figured it out as I went, and just believed in themselves and just went from there. And, I admire that, and that's something I need to constantly keep reminding myself is take the risk. And I think my first step was when I walked away from a very good job to say I'm going to bet on myself.
Right.
It's a huge risk.
Yeah. I say I'm going to bet on myself, and I'll figure this thing out. But it is something.
That's been the biggest challenge. Is
yeah,
the
for
risk.
me. Yeah.
Hands down. Other than that, if let's just say you were born with the stomach for risk and you just re-engaged it, was learning the actual job difficult?
I've been fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of really great people who've done it for a long time. And I was able to leverage off their experience. And I think they were in turn able to leverage off my relationships, my ability to sell, my willingness to put myself out there, to put who I was working for in the right place at the right time. And then also just management, leadership, things I've done my whole career, which are easily translatable from one to the next. So I would not have been able to do it if I wasn't surrounded by smart people. And whether that be coworkers, it could be partners. You know, it's your general saying, hey, you don't want to do this, do that, and really forming those relationships and then trusting that, you know, you're never the smartest person in the room. There's always going to be someone who's done something more, and being willing to listen and learn from those people, I've found has been the best training I've gotten.
I would second that. That's probably an overlooked asset, that when you take a risk on somebody that might not know exactly how to do that job, they don't know how to do that job, so they are open. And I feel like sometimes when you just, find that cookie cutter to fit in that right square and that right, box, that they're not open. They already know it all. They've done this before. They know it. And even onboarding Matt, right? Marketing guy comes in, background in a lot of digital, high-end cars, and we're just teaching him. You're still marketing. You're still selling a product where people have to know you, trust you, and select you. Just a different product, right? But it's been fun to watch him because he has this whole other perspective. Why aren't we doing this? He's asking questions that might sound basic and boring and menial, but they're big. And we literally changed our entire RFP process because of the questions he was asking.
Yeah.
Would you say that we can hear you, but is the risk worth it? Or have you ever taken that risk on somebody that didn't have the exact thing that you were looking for? And
yeah, and so yes, the risk is worth it. We've made mistakes through the process, and I think that's healthy. We've had one employee we hired to run down the project management path, hired as a project engineer, is currently working in our accounting department. Because we missed on our assessment on where we thought the skill set would be, but uncovered a completely different skill set through the process, and have maintained hiring and seeking out the right personalities and the right
what does that look like?
The right attitude.
Is it a gut thing?
And I missed this one, but hearing Derek say it really kind of made me think about it again. But I think a willingness to learn is a big thing. I ask a ton of questions, always, and I think there's you almost I was going to say defecate yourself. I can't think of the word, but whatever.
It's definitely not that one.
Deprecate. Thank you.
Oh, so close.
I mean, you were right there. Just a P and an F. Other than that, you were there.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, one you're changing your shorts, and the other one you're not. So, but you almost kind of immediately lower yourself in the room when you're asking questions, right? And it, in my opinion, that eases the tension.
Yeah.
Right. Using the wrong word or asking a dumb question, it just kind of eases the tension. And the reality is, nothing should be that tense anyways.
Right.
So, lowering the tension in the room, asking the right questions, getting the right people on board, seeing a willingness to learn and a work ethic. So, we always joke around, but it's like, well, was he an axe murderer?
Yeah.
And like, if not, then, well, does he want to work here? And, it's more of a, do you have the right personality, work ethic, a willingness to learn, not going to come in here and upset the proverbial apple cart with everybody else's personalities. And we just kind of figure out the rest. We've made mistakes. It's not a perfect process. I don't think it's possible, because in somebody's interview, you're either getting their best or their worst. I don't think you're ever getting who they are, right? Like, you're either getting their absolute best. Somebody comes in and just crushes it on test day, or they're a total stone face and you just can't, you just can't get through them. If you want to have a good day, just spend an entire day interviewing superintendents. It is the best. You never understand who that person is until you really get them.
The nerves are too high.
The nerves are so high, and
well, office environment's not what they do for a living.
Right.
It's hard.
And so you're literally like, it's just uncomfortable for everybody. So we've made mistakes through that process. It's difficult to interview and really get somebody's personality. Our biggest successes have come from people that we interviewed with not even one of us didn't know it was an interview. It was more of a blind date introduction. And it's like, hey, do you have we talked to this guy about working here? Like, he's looking for a job. And then I think it was actually Matt. And you were like, well, yeah, you just met him because...
I knew we were interviewing him. None of you did, including him.
Yeah.
Nobody knows an interview. I just talked him into coming in. Took me 2 years to get in.
I can be risk averse. And I think that, I struggle with that as well. And so On paper, I would have probably just sloughed the resume off to the side.
Right. That's exactly what I'm getting at.
And Steph was like, well, no, why don't you meet this guy? We didn't have this conversation because I probably would have just sloughed it off to the side. I
don't even know that we got a resume. He might be an axe murderer. Did they put that on the resume?
I'm still trying to figure out what sloughed means.
I think it means you get rid of something. Minnesota words. You just kind of go with it.
Gosh.
That's how I normally
say it. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Oh, jeez.
Words are important.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know where we're going, but was the risk worth it? Yes. And I think, we've had other situations where
How do you...
we hire somebody who comes from another contractor and on paper you're like, yes, this is the dude. We got that, 7 to 10 years experience. This is going to be great. And you plug him in, and the first 3 months, all you hear was, this is how we did it over here. This is how we did it over there. It's like, dude,
that's a door closed.
We are not over there anymore.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that you're not there anymore, right? 1, 2, or 3. There's a reason you're not there. And yes, there's a lot of repetition in the business. Yes, it's a similar skill set, but every company does it different to some level. And we might not have the same TPS report that company does. Get over it. And so it's almost an untraining process. And the longer in, the more you have to undo, in my opinion. And so there's an unlearning, and I think it's a lot harder to unlearn than it is to learn, if that makes any sense. It's harder to forget than it is to learn when you're training for a process like that. So coming with a foundational skill set like banking, at the end of the day, it's all banking. And so
it's all money.
100%. And even our job, I joke around with the guys all the time that it's like, look, this is great. I understand that you know a lot about this construction project. How's the job doing financially? How's the job performing, right? And at the end of the day, you turn into a manager at some level as you ascend through your career. At the end of the day, everybody ends up managing people and money anyways. It doesn't matter what you're doing. So yes, the risk is worth it.
The risk is worth it.
I just don't think about it.
What's shocked you coming into this industry? Did you have an expectation of something? What's something that I did not see that coming, or didn't know I would like that, didn't know I would hate that?
Honestly, I think how transferable the skills were. I mean, quitting and starting something I'd never done before I was 37, maybe. And so I thought, I was going to have a very steep learning curve, and I had a learning curve without question. But at the end of the day, it's about people, and that's what it's about, and how transferable 75% of what you do every day really is from one job to the next. And, I found, I think that was the most surprising. I thought it would be there would be a lot more to learn about specifically within the profession, when really it's people, it's relationships, it's sales, it's budgets, it's all the same under a different cover, and that kind of surprised me. I mean, pleasantly surprised me.
It wasn't
and I've learned
what you thought it was going to be.
Right, I've learned a ton, but because I feel those strong building blocks to start from, it wasn't as steep a climb as I expected it to be.
What about the people? Have you enjoyed the people more than you expected? Less than you expected? Just in general?
Yeah, no, I would say more. I mean, it's definitely, it's such a diverse industry. And there are so many people successful in so many different ways. And to your point, there's no one way to do it at the end of the day. And I think, I've enjoyed the people more. I feel it's more of a, definitely more entrepreneurial, but it's not TPS reports. But banking, regulated industries, there's a lot of similarities from person A to person B to person C, and that's not the case in the development world. And you've got to be able to read who those people are and interact with them in a way that they're comfortable. And it requires a lot more flexibility in thought and communication than I had in previous careers. But overall, I've really enjoyed it. And the different backgrounds people come from is really been enlightening to what you can learn and how they look at something. I have a finance background, and in banking, a lot of people have a finance background.
Weird.
Yeah, I know.
Crazy.
But in this world, there's finance background, there's construction background, there's marketing. I mean, it's just such a potpourri of people, and I've really enjoyed that. And it's a much more diverse in both. It's just a much more diverse industry. People with all different backgrounds, from all different places. Part of that's also Arizona, obviously. People coming from all over. Where you started in Minnesota and I started in Wisconsin. everybody was from Wisconsin or Minnesota. And, out here, it's just such a collection of backgrounds. And I really enjoy that about this.
I was caught off guard by business development. Coming from a healthcare background, the person in the business development role is at every seat. Like they have a seat at every table, not a seat. We all have seats. They are driving strategy. They're driving new revenue opportunities. They're a very, very, very respected role. And I was really caught off guard by the way that title was approached. It was very, and there's people that are so good at their jobs, but then I would hear how their firms would treat them or expect of them, and it was just almost it fell into the realm of like a salesperson or like a pharma rep-ish or something. And it's just that caught me so off guard. And these are like absolutely brilliant people that interact with engineers or people that have a totally different skill set of what they do day to day, and then they have to somehow box and sell that and find the right people to do the right thing and be the communicator for all these people. And that equally impressive. It was just so different than what I expected. Very, very, very different. Just that title and that role.
I think, in our industry, everyone is in business development, and you just need to accept that, is we're all business development. Now, there's some people who have that title, and you're right, there's some absolutely fantastic ones. But at the end of the day, we're all business development, right? I mean, you're out, you're business development, I'm out at a meeting of some sort, I'm business development. So I feel that whether it be a law firm or a bank or something else, you have this person, that's all they do is business development. And a good friend is an attorney one time said 5% of lawyers can sell. 95% are just tremendous documenters or whatever, but the 5% that can sell, those are the people who, really, really shine. And so I think the business development concept is so much larger in our world because we're all doing it constantly. You have to. Companies are smaller, they're more efficient, and they're not publicly traded where maybe the expenses aren't as important as they should be. I mean, you've got to be producing, and that's every level in the organization.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that kind of speaks to the service part of it too, right? Because you can't have this dynamic, kick-ass business development person and then hand it off to a complete wet noodle. Right. I mean, like the deal's gonna fall apart, right? So it has to be, in order for relationships to work, they have to be a true zippered approach, which means you got to connect people at each level with the company or the client at each level. And that's really how these things stay together. So everybody sells, right? I mean, we talk about that all the time because, we submit an estimate, the client's going to call the estimator, right? We have to negotiate a contract. They're going to call, the project manager. They're going and any negative experience in any one of those facets kind of crumbles the whole thing, right? It doesn't matter that somebody really connected with Stephanie. Stephanie's awesome. This is great. But then I met Nick and he's a total douche. And so I don't want to have this conversation anymore. All the time. It happens more often than it should. So it's has to be a true top-down approach. I mean, honestly. And then because the companies are smaller, that's a good point too. I wasn't thinking about that. It's more important for each person to be aware of every situation. And so so when we win a project, when we have a pursuit that we're after, we have maybe a new client or something along those lines, we have to be really communicative within the group to make sure that everybody kind of understands because things move fast. It's a small group. You never really know when you're going to get put on the stand, so to speak, right? So it's one of those things that everybody's kind of got to be ready to dance at any time.
COVID. There's a thing. COVID?
Oh, right. Yeah, familiar. I build office, so I'm fairly familiar. Yeah,
used to build office.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've heard a little bit about it. Yeah.
Okay. So did it affect you in any way, shape, or form?
A little bit. Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Do tell.
It did. We broke ground on an amazing project on Tempe Town Lake, 100,000 square foot Class A office building, like 3 weeks before COVID started. Awesome. And we'll be fine. You plan for these things. Something's always going to go wrong. Now, I did not have COVID in my underwriting.
No.
Do you want to talk about stocks? Can I get some advice?
But that was not, the COVID wasn't a line item. But it had the most significant effect early on was just the unknown. Office is dead. It's never coming back. People are never going back to work. Everyone's shrinking. Everyone's working from home. The offices, and I never believe that personally. I still don't, maybe because I can't. But
It's not
no,
real,
I
it's
think
not real. It's not real. It's not real.
well, I mean, I still go back to turnover's more expensive than rent, and
Right.
you can't create a corporate culture on a Zoom call.
Nope.
But so it did have a significant effect on us in the fact that we lost time. I think time that we would have been able to spend, pursuing companies. For example, in that project, we're looking for those larger, potentially publicly traded companies, and they're the ones who are, in addition to not being sure what their future looks like, they also don't want to incur the PR of, we're adding confined spaces to people. So, I think it affected us mostly from a timing perspective. I think it'll
keeps the
still be there,
conversation
but and time kills deals. And you do plan for adverse things, not COVID specifically, but you do plan on things happening. And I just think it really it cost us in time. But overall, I think prior to the latest surge, but it feels like people are getting back to normal. You watch the stock market, you watch whatever indicators you can have, and they say, we're coming back and potentially stronger. And I think, Arizona especially, if I were in Milwaukee, where I'm from, I might be a little more concerned because there aren't as many companies coming there as you read, coming
Wall Street
here.
Journal. Yeah.
Yeah. So that what I would say was the major effect on us was timing. I think demand will be back. I think the product is the product. It may change how people lay it out, but it's not going to change the building itself. So that was probably the main effect it had on us.
And moving forward, you add timing to rising cost supply stuff. How painful is it, I guess is my question.
Right now?
Yeah, I guess right now.
Well, the generals keep pushing my prices up. I don't know why. They
You
just
understand
want
that
us to
how
fail.
this
The
works.
gas,
Yeah,
the
well,
gas for all of our boats.
Yeah.
Getting very
Just-
expensive.
It just keeps the generals are getting rich.
His tan doesn't
and
find
we're-
itself.
Yeah, exactly. Steel. It's
You
just
should
ridiculous.
see how fast my boat is, though.
Yeah, it's definitely it's like lumber, right? I mean, what is lumber down 75% since May 15th or something?
Stupid, yeah.
You guys know that. Yeah,
Well,
we
it's
don't.
we don't use
skyrocketed.
wood.
Yeah, neither do we. But I know I saw a picture in like USA Today. It was a down arrow. But no, I think
Was it upside down?
yeah, I think so. Shit.
Oh.
Yeah, I did have it upside down. That gets me every time. No, but I think right now the supply chains are all jacked up.
They say for 2 years it will be. That's what I
Well,
read
they say
yesterday.
that, but they also said that wood would be for 2 years. So that's really the hard part
Maybe
in
they
our
just
world.
found it. They found the wood.
They found it.
They found it.
Yes, it was in Canada
All this time?
all this time, just
Dang.
right there. You
Just
never know.
nobody there to pick it.
Nobody there to pick them out and to dust it off. So that's the other issue, right? Is if any of us, you guys too, if you had a roadmap that says, well, prices are going to drop at this point, so let's just pause, let the process normalize, but you don't know what normalization. We don't know what normalization looks like, and we don't know when it's going to happen.
Oh, we do, because as contractors, we're controlling all of it.
I'll believe
you see?
me. I know.
If you want to know, I know a guy.
Do you? Yeah. No, I believe me. I know fake news. I'm all over it. I know where this is all hanging out. No, but it's just it's really hard right now because you don't know. Are you going to be paying 50% more today than you would be paying in 6 months? So you wait, or do you wait 6 months and then you're still paying 150% and you've just lost another 6 months?
We should get tarot cards.
Well, it actually goes back to what you said before, that turnover is more expensive than rent, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of the exact same thought process because timing kills deals.
Yep.
And so is it better to pay more now than it is to fictitiously pay less later? You don't know, right? You just don't know.
Right.
The problem is the swings have been so drastic. In previous years, we're talking about 2, 3, 4, 5%. It's like, okay, grit and bear it, let's just keep going. Now we're talking about 10, 15, 20%. We're some serious dollars here, right? And so
40. We had a deal go up 40%. Corn shell.
Well,
From where we bid it, I want to say 8 months ago. And it's not, it's not the generals. They're bidding the hell out of these jobs.
Yep.
It's the subs
supply
prices.
cost.
It's
And it's
the
their
cost of
cost.
supply. It's real.
it's
not
very real. It's what
it's
Brandon
not-
Bell was talking about, too.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, did he make it all up?
let's not complain.
He did get a boat.
And a
That's
plane.
where the boats are. We just need to hang out at the lake to figure out who's really making money around here.
his is at the bottom, though, because he tried to build it out of steel. It was really heavy.
Yeah, that doesn't
Mess.
float
He has
well.
a really
Well, you're from
expensive dock.
Minnesota, so you can explain these things to.
Aluminium is
Yes.
what we use. Yeah,
That's
mostly aluminum. Yeah, but it's still timing kills deals, right?
Yep.
So it's a crystal ball issue, right?
Right.
And I don't think prices never come down that fast.
Right.
And so the reality is even if, the news wants to tell you that the wood is down 75%, that doesn't mean that the lumber number in your bid is going down 75% tomorrow. It just doesn't work that way.
Right.
It takes a long time for these things to shake out. And a lot of the suppliers are buying materials at these higher prices in order to stock their yards, and they have to get rid of that material that they sold or that they bought at a higher price. So the prices are going to stay high for a while, right? And if things slow, which we haven't seen them slow, but if you're talking about a deal going up 40%, that's a big deal, and so that so that's a problem.
That's
right?
a no
So now
deal.
all of a sudden there's not enough risk in the pro forma to handle something like that. So so that's different. I don't know that we've seen that at a high level yet. But
We've
I
seen
think
onesie twosies where clients call us because that happened to them, and they're for sure it's the contractor gouging
100%,
them.
yeah.
So they come to us and we're like, "We'll show you, but they're probably not wrong."
Yeah.
And it's egregious. And
It
it's
is.
embarrassing to call the client with a number.
I think we also, doing office, we get a little extra pain because we don't have the economies of scale.
right.
When you're
Yes.
trying to get concrete, you put a 1 million square foot industrial in Goodyear compared to 40,000 tilt in 2 blocks away. The concrete stuff's going to get his people out where he can keep them going and keep rolling, and I
Come to
understand
you
that.
on Saturday.
Exactly right, but it's a reality of the situation we have to live in, and it's like you said, it would be nice to have a crystal ball, but we don't, and I can tell you, rents aren't going up that fast, and
That's
so
what I'm like, if the math doesn't work out, why doesn't that number go up? How come? I would love that from a home buyer's or a car buyer's perspective. Like the car prices stay the same no matter how much it costs to build it.
Well, I think at the end they do have to go up, and in Class A you'll see them go up, but Phoenix has, in the office market anyways, that 15 to 17% vacancy. Even when times are good, we have 15 to 17% vacancy, and there's that pain point where people will say, I really want something new, but I'm not going to pay that much. I'll be willing to go out. So while you have that, supply that's always out there, the theory is always, people will always pay up for new, and they will, but to a point. And so I think especially in Phoenix, where you have that somewhat, I don't want to call it stagnant, but somewhat stagnant vacancy number, there's always an alternative that was built under a previous cost structure where someone can get it cheaper, and they will make that. I mean, every business owner is going to make that decision of how much is it worth to have the and there are those deals out there. There are those people who say, regardless of price, I have to be here, and you got to hope you get those. But I think that's the reason rents, you can go up a couple bucks for new, but you want
Can't make up the difference of 40%.
Oh, right now, yeah, we'd have to go up, $7, probably off the top of my head, probably $7, $8, and that's probably a point when someone's leasing 10,000 square feet that they're going to say, I like it, but we can make do over here for another year or something like that.
So the money appetite, the developer circle that you run in, is the money appetite still? Is it conservative? Is it let's buy? Is it let's give it a second? What is the
whose money?
I guess we could say like your investors, if you will, like maybe yours, others. Is it a fever to buy? Is it a pause across the board? Is there anything consistent?
It's product type. Type. I think. From what I understand on industrial, you put out an offer and you're filling it up. Apartments, industrial, they just go.
Hotcakes.
Because the market right now is very bullish on industrial, very bullish on apartments. In office, I don't think the investors are looking at it a whole lot differently than we are. We don't know. We think we know. We think it'll come back, and I would say I know it's going to come back, but I don't know when. And I think the investors, they want to get rewarded for that risk. So there's some people who will say, I'll just wait. There's other people who say, we're in, but we need a premium on that. And now all of a sudden my money's more expensive in addition to my materials being more expensive, and the prices just go up. So I think it's a very different answer depending on what food group you're in.
That makes sense. Does that make sense to you, Nick?
It does. I think the rising cost is troublesome. It's kind of a perfect storm. I think the only thing that would make this more complicated is if the cost, and we talked about this the other day, if the cost started to balloon beyond lending, underwriting, and appraisals, right? To make it to where people couldn't get money.
Sure.
Specifically on the smaller side, because now you've got your entrepreneurs and you're like, for us specifically doing a lot of healthcare stuff, it's a lot of the docs going out on their own, using their own personal finances against a bank loan. And what we're seeing right now is the cost of that construction is rising, obviously. And it's getting close to a threshold to where it's rising beyond what the bank believes it should cost. Therefore, it's not appraising, so to speak, through the underwriting, and the guys are having a little more trouble getting money. To me, that's when the cookie kind of crumbles a little bit, right? Because they're still go, because they need the space. It still makes sense for them all day long. The pro formas are very rich, and so it's okay. Mm-hmm. But once the money becomes unavailable, then it becomes a little bit of a different, if it does, then it becomes a little bit of a different situation in my mind.
Sure. I mean, appraisals are a history report, right? All it is this is what happened before. Mm-hmm. And so in a rapidly increasing cost environment, it's never going to appraise. Right. It's just not going to happen. And, as you know, other people's money is the best way to make your, yep. pro forma jump. It's a low cost of banking. Dollars are the lowest cost of capital, and the fewer of those you get, the more equity you have to put in, which dilutes the returns. And to your point, it can make a good deal go bad, just because you either can't get a bank loan, or more importantly, you get a whole lot smaller one, which mm-hmm. makes you put in more equity and lowers your returns.
So tell me something good. What's the good news? Let's end on a high note. What's the good news?
I think Phoenix trajectory. I think that's the good news. I think we I don't know if I've always said I don't know if Camacho and Ducey are really that much better at their jobs or that much better advertising what they're doing, but I'll tell you what they're doing is working.
I know.
And I think the attention that
tech, the semiconductor, it's the industrial, it's just nuts.
Right. What GPEC's done, promoting the Valley, and what I think the government has done, saying we're open for business, we're a place to come. I think that's the high note. I'd feel
they removed one area of unknowns by basically saying this is what we are going to do. Here's one less thing that you have to put in your crystal ball.
Yeah, I think that's the high note, is that we're in Phoenix. California prices and
open shut, don't know.
Right, open shut, and then Washington price. People are getting priced out of these markets, and I think we have a great story to tell, and that's to me the high note. People say, well, everybody's shrinking their space, and I say, well, unless I have the biggest building in the world, I've got something they can shrink into, and I think the fact that even if people do shrink their office space, with the net migration you have of people coming here, that's a
and the quality, the educated. These are high level, really smart people from across the planet.
Yeah, and there's good jobs available. That's why these people are coming, right? And so I think that's 100% true.
Yeah, I mean, when I left banking, back to that earlier point, it was 14. There weren't a whole lot of companies in town that would hire, somebody with a master's in finance. I mean, it's just there weren't those jobs here in town. In 07 when we had the crash, and the big companies weren't here. It was hospitality, it was construction.
But you still thought it was a good idea to quit your job as a president of a bank when there was no other option.
In that moment, not the day after when I woke up and said, "What the hell did I just do?" But in that moment, I was like, "Yeah, I can do this." But no, I mean, there weren't the depth of really good quality jobs. I didn't feel when we went through the last period, and now that's not the case anymore. I mean, every time you flip on the Phoenix Business Journal, there's another company coming here, and it does start with call centers and data centers, but then it starts to move up, and we're seeing that now with with obviously TSMC and Intel expanding, but it always starts at the lower end, and then as far as skilled workers go, and then works its way up, and I think we're in a great spot right now. I mean, just a great spot with adding good jobs in the Valley as a whole.
Back to you then, Nick. What's the good news construction-wise?
I mean, it's the same. I mean, I think
there's just enough going on.
There's just a lot going on, and I think for every deal that stubs its toe, we're working on 5 or 6 that won't. And I think, kind of all the way back to the beginning, I think the creativity, the entrepreneurship, and just the pure tenacity of the average person here, and in this commercial real estate market, I think it just kind of trumps all the other stuff, right? And so we always talk about just find a way to get the deal done, right? And I think there's a lot of people here in this town that just find ways to get deals done.
Scrappy.
And that's kind of, again, all the way back to the beginning. It's one of the things that by asking a lot of questions, I feel like most people in the industry are very open to telling stories, sharing mistakes. I screwed up on this deal, or this was a huge home run for us, or this is what this guy's doing. Oh, super proud of him for doing that. What a great idea. There's a lot of people doing that kind of stuff. And we talk about that. Like, look what this guy's doing. Oh, that's a really cool idea. And I think there's just a lot of
But when Matt sends you screenshots of people's cool ideas, you don't take it so well.
I'm frustrated. I didn't have that idea. I'm competitive. And I think there's a competitiveness that's important too. And I think that, because I can have good ideas too, just I didn't have it first, pissed me off.
Text him good ideas that he had that day. Then that's how you get out of the negative.
You never text out my good ideas, which I guess is probably appropriate.
That's what he does for a
I don't
living.
know. Anyways, I just think that there's a tenacity here. Now, I'm not an expert. I have never worked in another market. So, let's leave that for what it is. But it just feels like there's a lot of really great, young, tenacious, entrepreneurial people here doing a lot of cool things that are just finding deals. And I think that with the amount of opportunity we're going to see and continue to see, getting these other companies coming in from other places, finding new ways to meet their needs, teaching other people the market, because it seems like almost every,
our new clients are fun.
Our new clients are super fun.
They don't know the
all,
town.
it's like, hey, help me understand this. Oh
they're
my God,
in great
they're going to let you
like
demo.
The sun shines. This is amazing.
They're going to let you demo before a building permit. Hell yeah, we'll knock the whole building down. And so, it's just all these things that we get to talk to people about all the time that it's just kind of, there's a lot of energy. So I don't know. And I feel like the overall commercial real estate group is pretty inviting. And people are good about, helping other people get deals done. Because inevitably,
over the top help. It's crazy.
Yeah. And inevitably good for the goose is good for the gaggle.
Gander? I think it's gander.
It's a gaggle of
I'm
geese.
not from the Midwest. I'm right?
It's a gaggle of geese.
Gander.
We need like a research guy just like doing nothing but checking facts.
If only there was like some
right.
system where you could type something into a phone and get answers.
We should make that.
Yeah, like something.
What should we call it?
So, second.
Noodle?
Yes.
Second to the table.
Yes.
On the idea though.
Yes.
This is why I get
But
frustrated
that's just
too.
called proof of
We're
concept.
sharing that.
That's what Matt taught me. I can still have the idea even if I'm
It's
second.
a gaggle of geese.
It's what's good for the goose is good for the gander is how you say it. I'm not saying it's not called a gaggle of geese. It is.
Boom.
What would she say?
What's a gander then?
She's like our Robin.
She just has to pick sides all the time. She's not knowing what to do.
She's Googling.
So
I'm getting pointed at and she said Team Stephanie if you didn't hear it.
it's
Gaggle of geese.
that's what I'm saying.
I didn't deny that.
Saying is gander.
But why wouldn't it be good for the gaggle? Could like the whole herd.
Oh my God, we're still talking about a gaggle.
Well, I just jump in and say one thing I will say is that you reminded me of is when I did
And we're back.
take a year off. It was a year. It's supposed to be 2 months, but it turned into a year.
Hey Nick, I'm gonna take a year out. The whole 2022.
15 days to slow the spread.
I didn't get paid for that year, just for the record. But I found the
They call it a
willingness
sabbatical.
of people in this town to talk to me and to be willing to share their experiences.
You just go door to door. and say, "Will you
Unbelievable.
talk to me?"
I called somebody. I mean, it was like I almost had the idea for LinkedIn before LinkedIn, but I'd talk to somebody. I'd say, give me 3 names, and they give me 3 names, and just the level, or I shouldn't say level or position of people that were completely willing to grab coffee or to share their experiences, and and to this day, I grab coffee with a lot of my competitors, once a month, and definitely I want to beat them, but I still want them to be successul too, and
Right.
just as long as California doesn't win, I'm happy. But
Totally.
but no, I think just the willingness and the collaboration that exists in this town, to your point, and I'll never forget that year of the number of people who are willing to share their experiences and make introductions and how can I help you succeed, and I feel that's an overwhelming theme in this
I had
market.
the same experience. And I'm from this market.
Yeah.
In a different sector, but the real estate community was. I think I even told you this. I'm like, why are they helping me? What's the catch here? There's a reason they're helping me. There was so many people.
Yeah.
Willing to do so much. It was almost uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was just so much.
I've never forgotten it, and I will always take a meeting with people and help in any way I can because, without those people helping me try to open those doors, I'd be back in banking. And
We can't let that happen.
No, I wouldn't fit in. It's just
How do you put a tie on?
no, like physically, my suits don't fit anymore. But it was I think that is unique to this market. Like you
Yeah.
say, I haven't spent as much time in other markets, but just the willingness of people to help everyone make Phoenix successful has been really enjoyable to watch.
Well, and because you benefited from it and enjoyed it, then it gives you the willingness and the drive to perpetuate it. And
Absolutely.
To pay
You know,
it
so
forward.
some intern from some company gives you a buzz, like, "Hey, Derek, you know, you maybe want to, yeah,
Is
some
that how
coffee,
interns
right?"
talk?
Yep.
And that's how they talk.
Derek.
And then it's the amount of information shared that always caught me off guard. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, wow, that seems like information that you shouldn't really share with me, but you are."
Thank you.
And so, you know, it's just openness, right? I mean, it is what it is. It's like, this is how you play the game. Some people play the game better than others, and that's fine. And I think the competitiveness is why we're all here. But yeah, I think it's a pretty open, honest, and like competitively friendly market.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as long as you're playing the game the right way,
Right.
right? And so as long as you're playing the game the right way, I think everybody wants everybody else to do well. If you're playing the wrong game, smite you. But, you know, other than
And
that,
word will
it's
get
like
around real fast.
100%.
I mean, that's the other thing about this town is do it the right way because it's the smallest big town in the world, right?
really
You're
is.
doing
What's
it the
word I
wrong
used?
way.
What was the word Nick used?
Smite.
Schmear?
Smite.
Schmear? Schmite?
Smite.
We'll just smite them out of here.
No, it's schluff.
Slough them out
Schluff
of here.
them
There
out.
you
Yes, schluff. Yes.
Well, like if you get some on your
Slough 'em out.
face,
go.
schmutz.
Schmutz 'em out.
Get some schmutz in your face.